Hey everybody, this is Josh Ronquist for the Heavy Debriefings YouTube channel with another edition of Out Today and What I Missed, this time for September 27th, 2024. This is easily the biggest Out Today and What I've Missed I've ever done, with 20 brand new albums. 8 that are out today, 12 I've missed along the way, no time to dilly-dally, let's get into it. First up, we have Adorior with Blood on My Teeth. This is the third album from this UK extreme blackened death metal band, and it's funny because the debut album came out in 98, and the sophomore album came out in 2015. Quite a bit of time, but sometimes you can't rush quality, and that's exactly what this album is. Imagine an unholy mix of goat whore, nun slaughter, possessed, morbid angel, and especially impiety, and you got one of the most intriguing extreme metal albums of the year, somehow still sounding like 1998 in 2024 at the same time. If you like the idea of a modern throwback like that, especially for extreme metal, you need to check this one out. You may just have to pick your jaw up off the floor after. Next up, we have the latest solo album from Anders Manga with Darker Than You Think. The latest LP from the Bloody Hammers frontman doing his passion project of gothic, horror-tinged synthwave is exactly what I love about this style. It's not heavy in the traditional sense, well, at least compared to something like Bloody Hammers, but it has the atmosphere, it has the lyrical content, and just the overall vibes that this release gives off is something that should garner attention from anyone who enjoys dark music. It's super catchy, full of great choruses that'll be stuck in your head for days, and a production style that fits like a glove. This is a perfect Halloween party album this year, so whether you're having a party or you just want to scare some kids doing trick-or-treating, put this one on. Regardless of all of that, give this one a shot if this is something that you want to hear. I think it's some of the most authentic music I've heard all year. Next up, we have Awake the Dreamer with Halcyon. This sophomore album from the Swedish outfit is something that won't be for everyone that checks out my reviews, but it might be for you. Combining some of the most catchy and emotional moments of metalcore and post-hardcore in 2024, this band has pulled out an album that has pulled on my heartstrings ever since the first listen, and it has not stopped. You can hear the pain and anguish throughout this entire album, while still writing some of the most catchy, melodic, and heavy metalcore riffs that I've heard this year, with stellar production and a sound that no matter where your rock and metal tendencies run, you'll find something to appreciate. This is a sleeper hit depending on who you are that rewards you the more that you listen to it. Whatever your reasoning, I think you should give this one a shot and see if it's for you. Next up is the Black Dahlia Murder with Servitude, and I don't know how I'm going to keep this under a minute, but I'll do my best. There's no way you can replace Trevor Sternad. There's just not, but the band has done such a magnificent job trying, and it really does feel like the Black Dahlia Murder 2.0. I love everything that's going on with this album. The entire band feels like they're at their absolute best here. Brian Eschbach is doing such an incredible job emulating Trevor but doing his own style, and having Ryan Knight back in the band doing his signature blend of guitar styling is just absolutely incredible. This album is everything you love about the band, updated just enough for 2024, barely a half hour at 32 minutes and change. It's everything that you love about the band, but just changing because of life and how it is. This is one of the best melodeath, mellow black, and American metal bands of 2024, and they put out one of the best albums when it comes to that. Rest in peace, Trevor. Next up, we have High Parasite with Forever We Burn. Guaranteed not to be the only time I mention this in this set, but I have to say it here. This is an album of the year contender. I love every single second of this album, and there doesn't feel like there was a single wasted second throughout any of this. Aaron Stainthorpe and Tombs have created such an amazing band here that is so goth rock, goth metal, rave inspired. Paradise Lost sense of production, which makes a lot of sense since Gregor McIntosh did mix, master, and produce this album, writing some of the most dark, captivating, and catchiest songs that you're gonna hear this year. Referring to themselves as death pop, which is a label that truly fits, this is a debut album that I can't stop listening to, and easily one of my favorites of the year, which is totally why I say it's an album of the year contender. I am simply astounded by this album, and if you dig this style, you may just be as well. Next up is Our Hollow, Our Home with Hope and Hell. 5 albums into this UK outfit's career, and they have written some of the strongest material to date. It perfectly blends heavy riffs, catchy choruses, and it feels like a throwback to 2000's second wave metalcore or new wave of American heavy metal if you choose to call it that. This could easily hit you if you're looking for that nostalgia, but you want it updated just enough for 2024 and giving off some really FM hard rock radio vibes as well. And this should be on the radio if if mainstream radio was better. Whatever your reasoning, if you like the idea of this, you should give this a proper listen and see if it's for you. It is heavy and mainstream at the same time. What a combination. Next up is Sirius Black with Rise of Akhenaten, and I hope I pronounced that right. This is a band that I fortunately got to see at Prog Power 2016. They put on such a killer show, but a lot has changed since then. It's 2024 now. Instead of just being that blazing power metal band that's super catchy, what are they doing now? Well, they kind of scale things back a little bit. It's just power metal enough, it's just hard rock enough, it's just melodic metal and AOR enough. It's this great combination of all of that together, and you have a super fun, catchy album that is suited for anyone who likes any of those sides. The songs are super catchy and memorable, and they feel like they were really written for the live setting, so maybe that'll mean more touring, maybe? It's a fun album from start to finish. If this is your bag, check it out and see if you agree. I know it's a little bit of a change, but I think it's been worth it. Next up, we have Torify with the very fun title, Necronama Songs. This is the 4th release from this BC band, and wow, I love this so very, very much. There's not enough bands that are doing the blackened and progressive thrash metal. There's one band that I can think of that I really don't want to mention, but outside of that, there hasn't been something like this in quite a while. Imagine a band like Skeleton Witch meets Toxic Holocaust, mixing that wicked sense of prog, punk, and thrash that Voivod does. Mix it all together with a production style that feels so authentic to this music, and you have one of the best thrash metal albums of the year, no matter the subgenre of thrash. This one took me by absolute surprise, and I love every second of it. You just might as well. Finally today, for stuff that came out today, is The Ring with Nemesis. This band is 9 years old, starting off as a solo project, but the band is now 4 albums in, and I really think they're starting to figure out what their sound is all about. It is as catchy as hard rock radio, but it can also get adventurous in some more jazz metal, progressive metal, almost dangerously getting close to progressive death metal at times. A way I look at it is, imagine a band like Watchtower, who really know how to mix that 80s pop feel while being very proggy, mixing that with Between the Buried and Me and Cynic. It is a dark sense of curiosity going out throughout this entire album, but it stays intriguing all the way through. If this sounds like anything that you could be into, I think you might enjoy it. It's very mesmerizing without being too wanky, all clean vocals, and it's not just about the Fretboard Olympics. If it sounds like it's for you, seriously, give it a shot. Now for everything I missed along the way, starting with Avernus with Grievances. And this is 100% my kind of death doom. Funny enough, this is the band's sophomore album, and it only took 27 years since their debut album for this to come out. This has everything that you love about the Peaceville 3, but it's just a little bit more melodic and very devastating as well. It's some of the most melodic death metal that I've heard all year. And to those who think that this style is just one slow riff over and over again, think again. This will make you think differently of all of it. Every time I put this one on, it gut punches me with its emotional intensity, and that's why I love this genre so very, very much. It might have taken almost 3 decades, but I'm so happy to see this band is back and written one of the best death doom albums of 2024. I can't sell it any better than that. Up now, one of the most positive albums I've heard all year, it is Crimson Sun with Sorrowbreaker. The exact opposite of all the death doom and funeral doom that's coming up, Crimson Sun is back with one of the most positive albums I've heard all year, and it comes from Finland, so it's already breaking the stereotype that all Finnish metal is depressing. Crimson Sun's 3rd album feels like how melodic metal got its groove back celebration. It's so optimistic, it's so much fun, it can put a smile on your face if you let it. The music is just on that edge of rock, metal, and pop that makes it accessible to everybody who checks it out. With how crummy of a year I've had, this album gives me a sense of, hey, I'm still here. And I didn't realize I needed something like that until this album came out. Just like Omnium Gatherum in Melodeath, Crimson Sun has done this for melodic metal, modern metal, and a little bit of AOR. And if you need that kind of optimism in your life, or you just want to hear some nice fun metal, give this one a shot. And now for something completely different. This is Crimson Veil with Hex. This is a debut album from a UK outfit that I didn't know I needed until it came out. This is a band that really hits some dark territories, but it gives it such a great grandiose feel behind all of it. It really does feel like a film score that you're listening to here. Imagine a mix of bands like Earthside, Disconnected Souls, and Long Distance Calling, and you're starting to get the idea of what the band is all about. There's still some stuff that they do otherwise that really makes them stand out. It really captures your interest from start to finish. It is the kind of album that you do need to experience like a full-on soundtrack. The more that you do that, the more rewarding the experience will be. I hope people catch on to this one because it is more than worth your time, and with an album that is this emotional, whimsical, and theatrical, it's also quite inspiring. Seriously, give it a shot. Next up, we have Deathless Void with the voluptuous Fire of Sin. Another debut album here, this time coming from the Netherlands, and this is just a pure, unadulterated, perfect look at black and death metal. Everything that you love from the early days of Gorgoroth and Behemoth, Vader, all of those great bands, you're going to be able to find something to appreciate with Deathless Void. It's that classic sound, but updated just enough to give it its own original feel. All kills and thrills, no spills. Simply put, this is how you make black and death metal exciting. And if you need that, and 2024 needs that, check it out and be in awe. Next up, we have Dreamless Veil with Every Limb of the Flood. Once again, another debut album, but this time coming from the US, and specifically from Dan and Mike of Artificial Brain. Instead of making their very technical, brutal, experimental death metal, they have created an otherworldly rendition of black metal that I haven't heard anyone else make something like this year, or possibly ever. It taps into the vein that makes my jaw drop upon the first listen when I hear something that's like this. It's brutal in black metal, but it also can get so emotional, and it just hits these kind of riffs that puts you into a sense of wonder I can simply not describe. You have to check it out for yourself. I love it when musicians are able to really show off their musical palette like this, and these guys have more than done that. If you're looking for one of the best black metal albums of 2024, check out Dreamless Veil. Next up is Excruciation with Pain. This is the 5th album from this Swedish death doom band that really gives me the most Tom G. Warrior vibes I've ever heard outside of something Tom G. Warrior's been a part of. I hear Hellhammer, I hear Celtic Frost, I hear Triptychon, I hear this and their own blend of brutal death doom mixed into all of it. It is pure Tom G. Warrior worship, but I'm totally okay with that because they add their own little mixes and spices to make it their own. If you miss this style of doom, and trust me, I do, I implore you to give this one a proper listen. You'll be so thankful that you did. Next up is For Falle with V. This is a Swedish post-black band, and I'm so glad to see post-black is really hitting Sweden now. Normally I just associate it with a band like Together to the Stars, but it's nice to hear this refreshing take on it as well. Even though it's just a sophomore album, it feels like a perfect counterbalance to Together with the Stars. It's harsher, darker, more atmospheric, hits some emotional beats that's kind of similar, but it is filled to the brim with dread. For many, this is the preferred style of post-black, and I totally understand why. It's especially that atmospheric style that adds intensity and emotion to the genre. It makes it feel a little bit sinister. I will admit the production is a bit hot, but I think it totally works in context. Other than that, this is a fantastic display of post-black, and I hope people will get into this. It's flown under the radar, but I hope that this review will help because this one needs to be heard. Next up is Heaven Ward with Demiurgic Forces. Before I get into it, you really gotta stop doing the band names and albums and stuff like that where you just take out all the nouns. It's enough. But that said, the creator of Unrequited has created a new project, and instead of going into the post-black realm, he goes into the depressive suicidal black metal route. And I love this. It is the perfect display of what DSBM is all about. There is one key thing to really note. He really does his best Life Lover impersonation here. That is not going to be for everybody, but for those it is amazing. And for others, I totally get why it wouldn't be for you. Otherwise, this is some excellently produced DSBM, which you don't always hear. Cold, dark, dreadful, everything that you could expect from one of the unsung heroes of black metal. Seriously, if you dig this, spread the word. This needs to be heard. Next up is Moonloop with Fate in Motion, and I feel so crappy for having missed this one. I completely missed the boat and did not even know this one came out. Thankfully, I did find it, and Moonloop has returned with some of their top work to date. The band is that perfect blend of progressive death metal and cosmic metal. Like, you can really hear the cynic influences throughout all of this one, especially on this album. But you will also hear the Opeth and Porcupine Tree stuff in here as well. You can also hear how a band like An Abstract Illusion is doing something similar to this, but, a bit different. It feels like that mid to late 90s through early to mid 2000s progressive death metal. And if you love that decade, you are gonna find something to really absolutely appreciate about this album, and go give Moonloop your attention. Next up is Oakmord with End of a Dream, and this sophomore album from this Finnish band is the quintessential, literal definition of funeral doom. It is slow, brooding, heart-wrenching. It feels like you're being put in your grave, and dirt is slowly being buried on top of you. Of course, not everyone wants to hear something like that, but for people like me, it's exactly what I need. It's not an easy listen by any stretch of the imagination, but for fans of this genre, it is one of the most authentic funeral doom albums you are gonna hear. It will tear your soul apart in all the best ways. Take some time to give this album a proper listen and let those emotions flow through you. It's been a rough year. You deserve it. Next up is Toby Driver with Raven. I know you can give me anything. And Toby, I know you can write me anything. The man has written almost every single style of music out there, from the most extreme metal to jazz to acoustic, electronic, everything you could possibly imagine. This time around, he's returned to ballads. This is a very slow, ethereal, void-exploring side of Driver's music, and I love it so very much. It feels so relaxing, and it gives soothing emotions while being very vivid in lyrical concepts. Seriously, if you close your eyes and listen, you can envision everything that he's talking about. Well, even if this isn't for everyone reading this, and I totally understand why, I've always loved what Toby Driver has done. I love how experimental he can get, I love how subdued he can get, and everything in between. This carries that unique style, which people can try to imitate, but they will never duplicate. If you need a break from the heaviness of 2024, put this one on and drift away. And finally today is Unto Others with Never Never Land. And I wanted to cover this one last week, but unfortunately I don't get every promo ahead of time. That's what the What I Missed section is entirely for. That said, not only is this an Album of the Year contender, it could easily be Album of the Year, but it's a little too early to say that. But what I will say is I love absolutely every song on here, whether it gets into the goth territory, whether it gets into the metal side. They even do some crossover thrash, and there's some blast beats on this album. They've really expanded their musical palette. And if you check out the deluxe version, you hear a cover of Ramones' Pet Sematary, which is the perfect cover for the band. I know they don't like being called a goth band, but seriously, this is the goth album of the 2020s. No matter your style of music, you should give this one a spin and see if you don't fall in love. It's just that good. And there you go, folks. 20 brand new album reviews for September 27th, 2024. What did you think? Did I cover a lot of ground here? I'd like to think I did. Was there some good albums? Was there some bad albums? Anything I missed out on? Please let me know down below. And of course, like, comment, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff. Hit over 1,200 subscribers on YouTube, which I know is a little pea dribble in the ocean of YouTube, but it makes me so very happy that many people like checking out what I do. And it beats the population of my hometown, so I've already hit all my goals. Everything now is just a bonus. But make sure to come back next time, as I'm doing my big mega compilation of every album I reviewed in September 2024, and of course, tune in next week when I do Out Today and What I Missed for October 4th, 2024. With the end of September, I've covered over 400 albums now. Will I hit 500? We'll just have to wait and see. But until next time, for the Heavy Debriefings YouTube channel, this is Josh Runquist saying, embrace the skillet.